Well, the state of Arkansas is already feeling some of the consequences of the federal government shutdown. TSA agents at both Clinton National and Northwest Arkansas National airports are some of the federal workers who are required to stay on the job, though they're working without pay. Veterans Affairs says it will not provide career counseling, and the regional benefits offices will be closed for the time being. Arkansas Congressman Steve Womack, who represents Northwest Arkansas, predicted last week a shutdown would be bad news for the country.
I'm not a fan of shutdowns. Shutdowns are problematic because they're expensive. Federal agencies have to go through a lot of gymnastics trying to plan for it. And then the added challenge is one day you got to open it back up. And under what conditions do you open it?
Governor Sanders says she is working with the State Department of Finance to determine which federally funded programs will be suspended. And we're fortunate enough this morning to be joined by Arkansas 2nd District Congressman French Hill. Representative Hill, thank you for coming. Chairman Hill, I should say, of the House Finance Committee, back from Washington now that the shutdown is in effect. As of this morning, there are 264 state employees who have been furloughed, but there are more than 22,000 state employees in Arkansas that have some sort of federal funding tied to their income. What do you say to the Arkansas families worried about the impact of the government shutdown on essential services?
You know, this is why I don't support government shutdowns. It's why I voted 2 weeks ago to fully fund the government, because I know, just as Steve Womack said in your tape, what a disaster it is. It creates disruption in services for our citizens. It creates uncertainty for the employees that work for the federal government or for a state program that's funded by the federal government. And it's unnecessary. And so I would encourage all those people to call the minority leader in the U.S. Senate, Chuck Schumer, and tell him to vote to open the government, because that would be a big help.
If you listen to people like Chuck Schumer, the minority leader, and Representative Hakeem Jeffries, for example, these are men who are saying they have kept their promise as Democrats to reject any Republican bill that did not extend or restore health care benefits. Your response?
Well, of course, what Chuck Schumer is trying to do is repeal the Budget Reconciliation Act that we passed this summer that's been signed into law. And that's not something you do in a continuing resolution.
But extend the Affordable Care Act.
Well, that's not even up for consideration right now. This is a continuing resolution which Chuck Schumer just voted for in March, so that our appropriations committees can do their work. 3 bills have passed the Senate, 3 bills have passed the House, but we need to get all 12 bills passed. So House Republicans just simply suggested let's keep working till November 21st. That includes talking about health care related issues.
Well, on your website, you said the House Financial Services Committee had a robust plan for October, and now with this lapse in government, the people are ultimately hurt. Talk, if you would, about that. And also, I understand that you, just in the last 24 hours, have agreed not to take a salary, even though you could, as members of Congress and the president, still get paid during a shutdown.
Right, it's true. Congress is a separate branch of government. It's not funded in the same way, so members of Congress can continue to get paid, but I've asked that my pay stop until the government shutdown's over. I think it's ridiculous that members would be paid while, as you just reported, some people go without pay over the next few days.
The American people would agree, I think.
Yeah. So, but let's go back to the mission. In addition to stopping government from working, Schumer is also stopping all the functioning of Congress for the month of October until this is resolved. Farmers need help in this country. Republicans have a plan to move a farm bill, and that's blocked by the takedown of government through Schumer's actions to block the Clean House continuing resolution. And also there are other priorities that we have in the Financial Services Committee. We're having a major hearing on artificial intelligence and how it impacts Americans in the banking industry. We're having a major hearing on how to reform the deposit insurance system. And how do we bring down the cost of housing in this country? All those things are stopped when you turn off the funding for the federal government.
Well, if the farming, let's talk about that. Why has it been so slow to be assisted?
Well, no, the farms have been assisted. We gave the farmers $20 billion in December that was distributed and was a big help to farmers at the time in the last farm year.
And trickled down to Arkansas?
Well, significantly.
Okay.
And then in the big beautiful bill, we changed all the reference prices, which will boost all the payments for farmers, but not until 2026, and that's the problem. The war in Russia and the trade imbalance with China has caused prices to be good, but we have surplus crops. So you have, I'd say, too much crop has been produced, so prices are not going up, and costs have risen due to the war in Ukraine.
You also have Arkansas farmers going bankrupt, and family farms for decades going out of business because of these problems.
Right, and before I was in Congress, I was a lender to farmers for 15 years. I helped farmers in Ashley County and Chico County get the money they needed for their crop. So this is why it's very important that the Department of Agriculture and the Congress find a way to help these farmers before year end so that they can refinance their loans in the beginning of 2026. This will be potentially the fourth bad year for farmers. In my experience as a commercial banker for many years, farmers can make 2 bad years back to back, and so can the banks, but a third year really produces the kind of bankruptcies you're talking about. So I hope Congress will work with the administration to help resolve this in the short term.
In the time we have left, I want to talk about the Fisher House. That's very important to you, but I do recall that the next vote is Friday.
In the Senate, they will vote again on Friday, and we had 3 Democrats join the Republicans at Monday's vote, and maybe more will join the Republicans on Friday.
A few more, yeah. All right, Congressman, tell us about Fisher House. What is it to Arkansans? We've covered it. Explain it and why it's so important to you.
I've worked for about 9 years to get a Fisher House brought to the Little Rock VA. A Fisher House is where families whose loved one is in the VA for extended care have a place to stay for free. And we think there'll be some 6,000 hours of free care for anyone visiting the VA. And it's not just Arkansans. We have people who come to our great Veterans Administration Hospital from around the state. So this is a real tribute to Zachary and Elizabeth Fisher, who back in the 1980s endowed the first 20 Fisher houses. So people know the name Ronald McDonald House for Kids. Fisher House helps veterans families in exactly the same way.
And I know you had a pivotal role in that. We're so proud of it.
I'm really proud of this work. It's going to be a great addition to Little Rock.
When do you head back to D.C.? Do you know?
I think Monday. Okay. And we'll see. I'll move. If the Senate votes, we'll be back in business next week. And so I really encourage Chuck Schumer to help the American people have the services they need and vote yes on Friday.
Congressman Hill, thank you for joining us. We appreciate seeing you. Back to you, Hayden.